Hi, everyone, and welcome to our discussion on CalExit and other big topics going on at the state capitol. I'm Steve Dempsey with the Bay Area News Group, and joining me today is Bay Area News Group State Capitol reporter Katy Murphy. Katy, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Great. Also, I want to remind viewers that attached to the article you're watching is Scribble Live. The chat where you can ask questions or make comments, and we may read them on the air, but I just want to warn you that this will be a very short broadcast, so if you have any questions or comments, make sure and get them in as soon as possible. So we intend on covering subjects that's going to be facing the legislators as they return from spring session, that being sanctuary marijuana, sanctuary immigration, and bail reform. But one topic that they don't have to bother with now is CalExit. Coming out of the election for Donald Trump, a campaign began to make California its own nation. But however, that changed and the campaign abruptly stopped just recently. Katy, what happened?
One of the leaders of the Yes California campaign, which was trying to qualify a ballot measure in November 2018, announced that the measure was being dropped because he had decided to take up permanent residence in Russia, which was sort of an unusual turn of events. It had come out that he had been living in Russia, but the other leader of the campaign said that he planned to file another measure with a different coalition. He hasn't given up on his quest to make California its own country, and there's a new a California Freedom Coalition that he started that started about 2 weeks ago, and he said that they are going to file a different measure May 1st. So something to the issue is not going away. But although I should note that even if it gets on the ballot, even if people approve it, Congress has to allow California to leave. Others in 3/4 of state legislatures in other states have to let California leave. So this is not a decision, this is not a matter that can be decided legally at the ballot box.
So is there anybody taking this seriously?
It's a very fringe, I think it's a fringe issue. It predated the campaign, the presidential election, but it picked up a lot of steam and publicity and interest after Trump's election in November. But it's still 70% or 68% of people that were polled by Berkeley IGS recently did not want to see this happen. This was one rare issue of bipartisan support that the poll found. So it still has not gotten mainstream traction.
Was anybody, any state lawmakers, anybody talking about this, saying, hey, you know, this might be something to look at, or you got to be kidding?
Right now, what I hear from state lawmakers is they're focused on California resisting, being the center of the resistance. And this is among Democrats, of course. So they have a pretty busy agenda right now on immigration, environmental concerns, pretty much anything you can imagine. California has a 180-degree different direction from Washington, and that seems to be what lawmakers here are talking about.
Okay, and so, well, while California at the moment is not going to be its own country, it's doing some other things to try to separate itself from the federal government, leading off with the sanctuary marijuana bill that's starting to go through. As you might know, voters approved the recreational use of marijuana in November, but the federal government seems to have some other ideas. And so I think, Katy, this is kind of a way for California to shield itself.
That's right. This bill passed its first committee this week, the Public Safety Committee, and it would prevent local and state police from cooperating with federal agents on cracking down on activity that voters deemed legal in California. It would, and it's modeled after another bill that that is attempting to shield undocumented immigrants from deportation. They got the idea from that bill and decided there's so much uncertainty around what Attorney General Jeff Sessions is going to do. He does not like the trend he does not like states authorizing recreational marijuana, and he's sort of sent out some signals about increased enforcement. There's just so much uncertainty, and the White House is so unpredictable on this issue that this is something that lawmakers said they felt like they had to do to protect this fledgling industry, and it's very possible that other states would follow suit. And there's also a bill in Congress to prevent the feds from using from enforcing marijuana laws that would otherwise be legal in states. And that's from a Republican from California, Burbacher. So interesting times.
Yeah, that's for sure. Because I think as far as marijuana goes, you have a lot of companies, startups that are ready to go, and to have the feds hanging over your head kind of makes things a little difficult.
Right. I think that's something that they're trying to protect the business interests, and it's hard to get something going when it's already a very difficult thing to start. There's so many new regulations. It's so complicated, and then to have this uncertainty makes it tough.
Yeah, and similar with immigration, because we already have sanctuary cities throughout the state, and the feds have more or less threatened to withhold funds, and now it's coming to a head in Sacramento as far as making it an entire sanctuary state. Yeah,
and the Senate, the full Senate passed the bill, and it was put forward by the Senate leader, Kevin De Leon. They passed the bill. Now it went to the Assembly side, so now it's going to go through Assembly committees and the Assembly floor. And he changed it so that it only needs a majority vote to pass. Before, he was trying to get a 2/3 vote so that it could take effect immediately rather than waiting until January 1st if it was passed and signed. But he's lowered the threshold, maybe concerned that he didn't have the votes in the Assembly. But it did get a 2/3 vote in the Senate. It passed with 27 votes. And basically, it would prevent, just similar to the marijuana bill, it would prevent local and state police and corrections officers from using state money, facilities, property, state resources of any kind to cooperate with federal agents, except they made some exceptions for very violent crimes.
Well, with both bills, this seems like an awkward situation coming up for law enforcement. As far as, well, what's legal, what's illegal, who do we help, who do we don't help?
I think law enforcement are coming out against these bills. They say that they are not in the business of enforcing immigration law right now, and that so I think that they just feel that it could put them in a difficult situation. They don't want to put any of their grant money at risk, their federal grant money at risk. But it's right now, as the law stands, their federal agents would only have access to publicly available data on when somebody's going to be released, and there couldn't be a free exchange of information, and so that's a major concern for law enforcement.
So with both bills Are state lawmakers, is there any concern that if these pass, you're going to be sacrificing some federal dollars, and does it look like they're going to pass?
It looks like, I mean, based on the fact that the immigration bill passed with 2/3 of the Senate, it seems as though it has a very good chance of passing in the Assembly with a simple majority vote. I don't know about the marijuana provisions, but it passed easily out of the committee this week. So I think it has a good chance of passing.
Now that would be interesting. So quickly, let's move on to bail reform real quick. I think there are two bills out there for bail reform, I believe. And can you kind of briefly tell us what they're about?
They're identical bills. One, they originated out of each house, one from the Assembly and one from the Senate, and they are, as written, currently designed to do away with the money bail system and to replace bail agents with a risk assessment of everyone who's arrested within, I believe, a 48-hour period, so that the idea is that the current system penalizes poor people for being poor, and it bases whether somebody stays in jail or is released, that those decisions should not be based upon whether somebody has the money to pay a bail agent 10% non-refundable fee. The bail industry is coming out in force against this measure. Even flew in Dog the Bounty Hunter on this week, who is a reality TV star. He came in from Hawaii to testify against this. And it does seem as though there might be some significant amendments to this bill, and possibly lowering bail or doing something that wouldn't completely do away with the bail industry.
Yeah, because I was going to say that basically the way the bills are written right now, the bail bond industry is
yeah, it would be put out of business.
Yeah,
essentially. Yeah.
So is this creating any kind of fight in Sacramento? Or I mean, are these bills gaining any support?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of support behind these bills from the ACLU is a sponsor, and a lot of organizations have come out, social justice organizations, saying that that other states, Washington D.C., for instance, did this decades ago, and they're saying that there's no reason that there's no reason for the current system as is. And there's also, but a lot of the law enforcement groups are coming out against it, and I think it has to do with change. It's a major change, and so with any sweeping change, there are endless implementation questions and challenges and anxieties about what this would mean and how exactly it would work. So it could be something that even takes 2 years to make its way through the legislature.
Wow. Well, I guess we better be a little patient with this one.
Yeah.
Finally, any other bills coming up that are piquing your interest?
There is so much coming out right now, and all of these bills are hitting committees. I wrote yesterday about a bill that would require Cal State and UC campuses to provide abortion pills on campus, rather than having students go off campus to clinics. There's also more than 100 bills on affordable housing that are making their way through the Assembly and Senate right now, and we'll have some stories on those. Obviously a huge issue. I guess a few years ago there were maybe only a handful of these bills. So the fact that there's, I think, 130 right now just shows how big of an issue this is for constituents and for lawmakers. So it'll be interesting to see which ones actually make it through, and if the state dedicates any funding to, you know, to help home buyers or prospective home buyers buy homes, or pay for to create incentives for more development, and what other things might happen.
Well, it sounds like you're going to be pretty busy over the next
Yes.
who knows how many weeks. So anyway, well, thank you very much, Katy Murphy from Sacramento. Appreciate your insights on this, and I'm sure we'll be back again
Yeah.
with more interesting stuff coming out of Sacramento. Thanks for
All
joining.
right. Looking forward to it. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.